shower. Really appreciate it. You know, I just haven't had a chance to talk to any other doctors really, and you know, rather than read your file, I'd rather just find out about your background and like this, and then also we're going to go ahead and do your evaluation now, the end of the 90-day evaluation, find out how you're doing. I know that we did some of the interviews this morning with some of the new patients, so you know, I just want to make sure that you're fresh, that you're okay going right into the next cycle and everything like that. But first, if I can ask you, just tell me about, I'm just going to ask you some really pedestrian questions about yourself and your education and your family, and
sure.
Just to help me kind of know who's on my team. Maybe you can fill me in a little bit about other members of the staff if you have any questions or concerns. This is all confidential, okay?
Sure.
All right, so your name, I know it's Dr. Leonard. What's your first name?
Jean.
Jean. Is it J or?
J-E-A-N.
And how old are you?
42.
And did you grow up in Illinois, or?
I grew up in just outside of Baltimore, a small town called St. Cloud.
Oh, I came here from the East Coast myself.
Okay, East Coast.
And did you go to school? What are your degrees? Where did you get them from?
I studied at University of Pennsylvania. Go UPenn. Pre-med, and also got my PhD there as well.
Oh my. Okay. And then you came directly to this job, or did you have a job in between?
Right after grad school, I actually worked for University of Penn's Research Center and did research for about 4 years. And then moved into, went to Chicago and got a job. They kind of sought me out, parent connections through family, but anyhow, at a clinic there, or treatment center actually. And there were, it was small and government funded, and but I was there about 6 years as well. Then got married.
Oh, then you got married.
Got married in Chicago area, stayed up there, didn't practice much for about 4 years or so, and then came to the treatment center here in Normal after about 4 years or so. Divorced, and still here.
Oh, okay. How long were you married?
6 years.
Oh, I'm sure you just said that. I just wrote it down. Was your husband also in the field, or?
No, salesman for Verizon.
Okay.
Not at all. Couldn't be more opposite.
Okay. So you divorced in Chicago?
Yeah.
And then
I just wanted to move away in a smaller kind of community and better place to raise my daughter. So.
Oh, you have a daughter. And how old is she?
14.
Oh. And is she? Are you still in touch with the father?
Yes. Yeah.
So does she go to Chicago sometimes?
Yeah, it works out quite well.
Lovely. So what attracted you to drug and alcohol treatment?
Well, you know, you probably are familiar with some of the presentations I do on moderation management. I'm a big believer in that style of treatment. I've worked a lot with, not just because only they say the percentage is 10% that actually become functional members of society and fully recover, so we can't really aim towards such a small percentage. We really focus on, especially here at this treatment center in my practice, have focused on relapse prevention. So, you know, realistically looking at those other 90% who are still going to use. And I believe, because I've treated so many people who actually are able to go back to drinking moderately, they can stay 30 days sober and go back to learn how to moderately using. So, I mean, I'm on my way to writing a book, and you know, because I've done so many of these presentations, and there's so many pamphlets and flyers that I've used, excuse me, around the country, and you know, they're becoming really known for this moderation management. So I'm really excited about it. Now, I first became interested in addiction, specializing in, I think when I was a child, my parents were both alcoholic, umbrellaed under and covered by the country club setting. However, I grew up with 2 alcoholic parents, and I think that my attraction to addiction really came from in Baltimore, where I grew up, well, just outside, but in the city, I would always be so interested in the homeless, and so many of them, and how they got there, and what drives someone to constantly need that next drink or that next fix. I've always been fascinated as to why that would be.
So, obviously you know that in the recovery setting, the moderation management is the least popular of theories, and you know, you're such an impressive physician that we that they tell me that we're supposed to sort of just work with you on that. But what is it that you think that the addicts are holding on to, you know, to take them from a place of abuse to moderation? What I mean, obviously in the typical 12-step programs are saying
Sure.
it's a higher power, and we do go ahead and teach that here, but how are you mixing those two things?
Well, I'll share with you what I don't share with my patients, and that is that I struggled with addiction myself in the late 80s, early 90s, when cocaine was a very popular drug and it's easily accessible. I battled for a few years, was struggling with the cravings, and luckily at that time 12-step programs were quite successful. And the thing with moderation management is you kind of work the first 6 steps while at the same time having your 30 days of sobriety and then learning it. Not everyone can do it. It isn't for everyone, there's no question, but trying to pull those out who could handle it. So it isn't, I think my success that you spoke of, and maybe what has gotten me to this position, is not just the doctor-patient relationship, but the addict-to-addict they're not aware of. But I think that I'm relating on that side. So that's just kind of the piece that I feel. And the 12-step recovery worked for me at the time, and I use some of that still. It's called biopsychosocial, and that's where you want to put these kids in a setting with their peers in the same situation. And so that's you know, that's an important piece of recovery, and 12-step recovery, they had that going on. So I still use a lot of that in my therapy groups. So important.
Yeah. So how are you doing? I mean, are you you know, suffering? I know you had a hard 90 days last time. I heard about the incident. Is there any danger and burnout for you? Are you hanging in there?
No, I just have a strong passion for what I do. I believe that there's help for these kids, and it's unfortunately the numbers are growing, and the ones that come in here that really want to work on it, and I believe there's always hope for all of them. Even the worst case scenario, like the Sheila we talked to earlier, I think that, you know, that it's easy to turn on her and consider that a hopeless case. But I don't think any case is completely hopeless. We're all human in nature. We all connect.
And I don't understand why they keep letting them back in, though.
Well,
I mean, how many times are you going to let the same person back in? I mean, how many times has she been here?
Well, unfortunately, it takes some more times than others, and they all have one common denominator, and that would be the fact that they need self-esteem. They need to find their self-esteem. They didn't know love. They only knew how to please their parents, usually, or someone else. They haven't learned to find their own deep inner feelings, and they need to usually get together in a social setting with one another. I like to use puppets. Yeah, that's usually my most effective
I heard about that.
treatment plan. And that way they can look at, from another perspective, they can see themselves, and they can learn how to love and interact and find a love generally. I mean, it may not be what you and I know it as, but if it's something, they'll find a small piece of hope, hopefully a will inside them to feed their own needs. Otherwise, sometimes suicide can be, you know, something we have to battle through, and that's our worst nightmare. So the ones that don't make it out, or that make it out and take their life. So that's always what we're fighting. That's just the truth.